clearing close in the forest you'll find a fabulous banquet, a fairy ball. If you close your eyes and you open your mind, the veil disappears and you'll see it all.
Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and for today's video we are going to be diving into yet another classic horror film that was inspired by a true story and real life events. Today we are going to be diving into a classic horror film, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I have personally never found a video on YouTube, or rather seen a video on YouTube, where anybody dives into the inspiration behind the film Nightmare on Elm Street. And upon doing my research, oh my goodness, I am so surprised this is not more talked about. I am so shocked that I was unaware of the true story behind it. And so if you too are like me and you never even realized the film was inspired by a very, very creepy real life event and real life events, well then this video is going to be just as exciting for you as it was for me to learn all about this. As you guys know, I've done this series on my channel for a while, but lately more than ever, I've been feeling really inspired to continue with this series and to do a lot more videos on it. So if you have any suggestions on any films you'd like me to cover the real life spooky inspirations behind it, then please just drop a comment down below and let me know what you guys want to see. But without further ado, let's get into this, because I have to say this is one of the most thought-provoking, based on a true story films I have ever filmed to date. So as you guys know, Nightmare on Elm Street revolves around 4 teenagers who are stalked and killed in their dreams, and therefore actually killed in reality by Freddy Krueger. We all know who Freddy Krueger is. For a lot of people, he was a figment of fear for them growing up. And I just have to say that whole concept of the film was always a very freaky one to me, that you could be stalked and killed in your dreams that translates to real life. Because you guys know, when I was a kid, I had a recurring nightmare where I saw the same man in my dream every single night, and he wanted to kill me. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. Now, although the films eventually turned into more of a horror comedy as all of the sequels progressed, the original film was much more serious, and to a lot of people is actually considered a classic horror film. Now, one of the reasons that I think the original film was so scary to so many people is because the concept of being stalked by something while you're in a dreaming state and being essentially hunted by something evil or sinister or paranormal while you are in your most vulnerable state of sleeping, that is a really common fear for a lot of people. The entire concept of the film is absolutely terrifying if you really think about it in correlation to real life. So what if I told you guys that this film was actually based on true events, and although Freddy Krueger himself doesn't exist, the idea of being stalked by something evil, sinister, and paranormal in your dreams and actually killed by it is real and has happened. So Wes Craven, the actual creator and director of Nightmare on Elm Street, says that he got the film's inspiration after reading an LA Times article about a family who had survived the killing fields in Cambodia. They made it to the United States, but a young boy in the family was still haunted by absolutely terrible nightmares. He actually told his parents that he was afraid that while he slept, the thing that was chasing him in his nightmares would get him and kill him. And so this child actually went on days of no sleep. Much like the film, he would actually try his absolute hardest to stay awake for days, because he felt as though when he fell asleep, this thing that was chasing him would get him and essentially kill him. Now, obviously, his parents felt as though these were night terrors, that these were really bad dreams, and so they didn't really take him falling asleep as a frightening thing. They thought that he just had to really get over these nightmares, and so they continuously encouraged him to get some sleep, but he stayed up for numerous days to the point of hallucinations and completely incoherency of what was going on around him. Now get a load of this, you guys. When he finally fell asleep, the parents thought this entire ordeal was over. They felt as though he would fall asleep, he would wake up and realize that this thing he was dreaming about wouldn't get him. But to his parents' fear and absolute shock, They woke up in the middle of the night to hear him screaming, and by the time they got to him, he had actually died in his sleep during this nightmare. So that's what Wes Craven actually says that Nightmare on Elm Street was centered around, and was really the sole article that really piqued his interest as far as creating Nightmare on Elm Street and creating this world where unfortunately whatever is haunting you and stalking you within your dreams is able to actually translate into real life and kill you while you're in a dreamlike state. But unfortunately, as far as the real life inspiration behind it goes, this did not stop here. It wasn't as though there was this one experience from a family from Cambodia who came here and their son experienced this. This was an actual epidemic, so to speak. In the late 1970s to the mid 80s, well over 100 male immigrants from Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia died in their sleep. They were completely young and healthy, so therefore their families were stunned, medical professionals were stumped, investigators were stunned, and medical authorities actually went ahead to name it Sudden Unexpected Nocturnal Death Syndrome, otherwise known as SUNS. However, witnesses and family members referred to it as night terrors. 98% of these deaths occurred from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. And terrifyingly enough, most of the time it was after they had complained about consistent nightmares or consistent night terrors where something was essentially out to kill them, you guys. Terrifyingly enough, which we'll get into in a moment too, a lot of these people had the exact same dream with the exact same man or woman in it, and the man was actually described as looking very burned. So like as though he had been in some sort of a terrible fire or something of those sorts. He looked like he had been burned. But there was also a woman that some people went on to see. One of the survivors of these night terrors went ahead and actually said exactly what he had saw, and it sounds a lot like sleep paralysis to me, but I will tell you guys word for word exactly what he recounts. A tall, white-skinned female spirit came and lay on top of me. Her weight made it difficult for me to breathe. I tried to call out but could only manage to whisper. I tried to turn on my side, but she pinned me down. After 15 minutes, she left, and I woke up screaming. So that's exactly what he said. Those are his exact words as to what he saw. And he said this was recurring, and she would say that she was going to kill him. And there were other people as well who said that they saw this woman. It was either this woman or this male throughout this epidemic, so to speak, of people dying from their nightmares. Now, crazy enough, some of these immigrants would actually travel by the same means of transportation to get to their new lives. So they would take the same boat or things like that. And a lot of them would all of a sudden experience this outbreak of night terrors. They would dream the same dreams, and many of them would die within their sleep after experiencing these night terrors. They would do the exact same thing as well as a little boy did. A lot of them, when people started dying in these same nightmares that they were all experiencing, they would actually try to stay awake for days on end as well. And when some of them would fall asleep, they would actually die in their sleep too. Like, how crazy is that? Now, because of all of this, there have been many theories that link SUNS to the stress caused by nightmares. However, no scientific studies have shown any correlation between SUNS, deaths, and the content of dreams. There has really been no scientific evidence between this SUNS outbreak and people's horrible dreams. There's been no proof that the content of these dreams is what's killed these people. Currently, there is no effective treatment for SUNS. I feel like I can't say that right. SUNS, like it's S-U-N-D-S, SUNS. There is no scientific treatment as of right now for this. And there is no clear reasoning as to why it tends to specifically target and affect Southeast Asians more than any other ethnicity or anybody else. It's actually kind of crazy when you think about it that it's specifically targeted to Southeast Asians. I don't know why that would be, and I find that really, really intriguing to do more research as to the reasonings why that could be, but there's no scientific evidence as to why that could be. Even stranger, you guys, the syndrome is very, very difficult to detect. Even with a dedicated electrocardiograph, reading. They're unable to really notice the differences when somebody is going through an attack like this. So it's really, really difficult for science to pinpoint what exactly is going on here. The fact that well over 100 men, and I think there was one woman as well, were dying, it just doesn't make any sense. So medical professionals and neurologists are actually really on the fence as to whether this is just an internal issue or if it's an external issue, meaning perhaps something to do with the paranormal world or the spiritual world. It's really difficult in the world of science to figure out where the paranormal world meets the scientific world and if the paranormal world even truly exists. It's really difficult for them to pinpoint it. So in a situation like this, where, for an example, that young boy, I believe he was 12 years old, claims that there is something out to get him in his dreams, and if he falls asleep, he will die, stays awake for days, falls asleep, and in turn dies, it's difficult to pinpoint, could that be something paranormal or could it be something more scientific? At the end of the day, like I said, there is no scientific evidence to do with anything to do with this. It's very, very difficult to detect, period, and overall they don't understand anything to do with it other than it seems to be completely supernatural and completely unearthly. So essentially, that is where the inspiration for A Nightmare on Elm Street came from. It's pretty terrifying to think that you could be stalked by something in your nightmares, think that it's going to kill you, and in turn actually never wake up when you finally fall asleep. I think that whole concept is even scarier than any horror film relating around it could be, because the fact that things like this have truly happened make Nightmare on Elm Street all the more of a terrifying concept. Very quickly before I conclude this video, I just want to say where this kind of hit close to home for me, and I did a video on this actually. Basically, that's around the fact that I experienced recurring nightmares as a child where I would see the same man in every single nightmare, and I felt as though he was out to get me too. So the fact that people had reoccurring nightmares, sometimes the same as those around them, and something told them it was going to kill them, and then in turn they actually turned up dead. It's a really terrifying thought for me as somebody who has experienced reoccurring nightmares, that sometimes dreams can be more than dreams and they can turn fatal in our real world. I'm really curious to know what you guys think of this. Do you think that there is some sort of scientific explanation that they have yet to discover, or do you think it's something to do with the paranormal world? I'm kind of on the fence on all of this. This whole entire concept has really fascinated me. I've really enjoyed doing my research into it, but unfortunately, when there's so many dead ends as to conclusions and medical reasonings behind it, it leads me to believe that perhaps something malicious really took over and in turn claimed the lives of people while they were asleep. I've heard of entities trying to get people to sign their souls over in dreams and things like that, because you're in a different state when you're dreaming, and the concept of reality and the concept of a dreamlike state are very blurred, and it's difficult for you to really decipher what's real and what's not while you're dreaming. But the fact that this was based on a true story, I don't know, you guys. This whole entire thing blows my mind. I am surprised that it is not more talked about, but I am so excited to bring this video to you guys and hopefully share something that you haven't heard before with you. Have you guys ever had a reoccurring nightmare that you feel was more than a nightmare and perhaps something paranormal? If you have, please leave a comment down below, because I'm really curious to hear your guys' personal experiences around this and what you guys think. But other than that, that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my content, I would really love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, and also turn on your post notifications, because YouTube doesn't like to notify people in their subscription boxes when I've uploaded. So if you turn on your post notifications, you'll get notified when I upload, and if you do like my videos, then that will be a good thing. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because I work really hard on these videos and it means the world to know that you guys do appreciate and enjoy them, because I love making them. So I don't know, it just makes me really happy. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you.